Okay. So looking at this, where will be our equilibrium point? Our equilibrium point. You see, in this case, you realize that marginal costs keep on rising from 10 to 12 to 15 to 20 to 24 to 28 to 27, sorry, to 27 to 28, and the last one is 30. So our equilibrium point will be at output level 3. Output level 3, because that is the point where marginal revenue is 15 and then marginal cost is also 15. So that will be our equilibrium point, our equilibrium output level 3. Output level 3. Now, if we decide to put it on a graph, we are going to get something like this. So you would get the marginal revenue coming down. You get your average revenue, which is the same as your price. This is your marginal revenue. And in this case, your marginal cost increases. So it will be something like this. It will be something like this. Now, what is our equilibrium point? There are 2 points. That is point A and point B. Our equilibrium point will be point A. Point A, because that is the point where marginal cost and marginal revenue are the same. That's the point where they are the same. So if you trace it down, you get it at your output level, then you trace it to the price. Sorry, to the cost. So this is going to be your marginal revenue, which is the same as your marginal cost. Now, if you trace this in equilibrium upwards, you will get your equilibrium price. So this will be your equilibrium price. Take note of that. I am emphasizing it. If you want to know the equilibrium price at equilibrium, trace it up to the average revenue, and then you trace it to the value that is attached there. And that will be your equilibrium price. Your equilibrium price. Now, the very last one. So we've done it when it is falling, when it is rising. And we are going to do the last one when it is constant, when marginal cost is constant. When marginal cost is constant, what will happen when marginal cost is constant? Now, when marginal cost is constant, you get something like this. And in this case, what will be our equilibrium point? Our equilibrium point is going to be output level 5. Level 5. That's going to be where marginal revenue is the same as our marginal cost. That is going to be our equilibrium output level. And if we put that on a graph, we will get our marginal revenue being this curve, our average revenue, which is above our marginal revenue, or our price, which is above our marginal revenue. Then we get our marginal cost this way, because in this case, our marginal cost is constant. It's 11 throughout. Now, the equilibrium point is where marginal revenue is also 11. That is this point. So you trace it down, and this will be output level 5. That's the equilibrium output level. Now, if you want to know the equilibrium price, like I have told you, you further on trace it to the average revenue, and you trace. So if this is 15, that will be the equilibrium price. That will be the equilibrium price. So that is what you need to know with respect to the equilibrium of the monopolies. Now we'll put all this together, and we've looked at it when it is falling, when it is rising, and when it is constant. So now we know that if you put these three together, rising, falling, and being constant, you get a U-shape. You get a U-shape. That's the behavior of our marginal cost curve. So we're going to have one here. So we are going to have something like this. Okay, so this is what we have as our graph. Now, what is our equilibrium output level? Our equilibrium output level from this graph. If you look at the graph very well, you realize I put together what we have just done throughout. So our equilibrium output level from the graph is going to be at this point. You trace it down to the output level. The level that it is, if this is 5, is going to be 5. It's going to be 5. If you trace it to this line is our revenue and our cost. It means that if you have 3 here, it means at equilibrium, marginal revenue is 3 and marginal cost is also 3. And the equilibrium output level is 5. That's what you need. Now, if you are asked for the price, you then have to trace it upward to where you have your price, which is your average revenue and is the same as your price. When you trace it there, the value you get, if it is 8, your equilibrium price will be 8. Your equilibrium price will be 8. So if you know this, then definitely you should be able to find your equilibrium of the firm. Your equilibrium of the firm. That's what you need to know on that. Okay. Now, having done the equilibrium of the firm, having looked at the equilibrium of the firm, I now want to look at the types of profit that the monopolies will make. So the profits that the monopoly will make, the types of profit that he will make in the short run. In the short run, there are the same types of profit that monopolies can make in the short run. These are the abnormal profits. Then you have the second one, which is the normal profit. Then the very last one, which is the subnormal profit. Okay, so these are the 3 types of profits that the monopolies will make. And I remember I told you something. When you are looking at profit, there is something you need to look at. You need to compare your price with your average cost. Very, very, very important. When you are looking at profit, compare your price with the average cost. With the average cost. So the price can be higher than the average cost, or it can be equal to the average cost, or it can be the same with the average cost. With the average cost. So if a monopoly is enjoying an abnormal profit, then the price is greater than the average cost. The price is greater than the average cost if the monopolist is enjoying a abnormal profit, or what we call the supernormal profit, or what some economists will call the pure profit. Then the price is greater than the average. It means that if the price is 5, the average cost would be less than 5. So it can be 3. That's what we mean. That's what we mean. In equilibrium, now you know the equilibrium position. When marginal cost is equals to marginal revenue, that output level, when the price is greater than the average cost, the firm will earn an abnormal profit. Okay, I like examples, so I want us to look at an example. Let's see how it works out. Let's see. Let's assume the price of a commodity is 2 cedis. Then the average cost of that commodity is 1 cedi. And then you have at equilibrium, they produce, or the equilibrium output level is 5. What is the profit of the firm Yesterday, we looked at profit and we said profit is equal to our total revenue minus our total cost. And we moved on to say that when total revenue is given, it means that it is our price times our quantity, whilst our total cost is equal to our average cost times or multiplied by our quantity. Now, when you get these two, then it means that our profit will be equals to our price multiplied by our quantity minus our average revenue multiplied by our quantity. And I think yesterday we did that. You factorize it out, you get our Q into bracket our P minus our AC, giving us our profit. So we would use the two scenarios. Let's look at the very first one. So if we want our total revenue from this question, we are going to get total revenue to be equals to price times quantity, which is the same as 2 times 5. And 2 times 5 will give us 10 cedis. Then we want our total cost, which is our average cost times our quantity. Now our average cost in the question is 1 multiplied by our quantity, which is 5. And when you do that, you are going to get 5. Okay? Now, if you take the formula, total profit is equal to total revenue minus total cost, you are going to get 10 minus 5, which will give you 5 cedis, as profit. This is what you get. Very, very easy. It's very, very easy. You see, when it is presented this way, it's very easy. But we translate this onto a graph, then some students will say, oh, it's not anything that is difficult. So let's put it on a graph and see how it will look like. Okay, so let's have a look at this. Now, if you look at this, it looks so serious, or something that looks I don't know how to describe it, but some students usually say that this is very difficult. But you see, these are just what we have done. We have done the behavior of the marginal cost. We said it's U-shaped like this. So this is the marginal cost. We have done the behavior of the average cost. We also said it is U-shaped, but it falls, it is greater than the marginal cost when it is falling. It is greater than the marginal cost when it is falling, and less than the marginal cost when it is rising. So that's what we've just said. And so that's what you see here, these two curves. And we've also said that with the monopoly, it has a downward sloping average cost, average revenue. Then the average revenue is also same as the price. Then we moved on to talk about the marginal revenue, which is also below the average revenue. So it is just these A and B that we have put together to get this. That's what we've just put together. So if you look at it and we ask you the equilibrium output level, just look at the point where marginal cost is equal to marginal revenue. Now this is marginal cost going, and this marginal revenue coming down. So where are they equal? It is just at this point. At this point. So you trace it down the output level. So let's assume that output level is 5. Let's assume that output level is 5. Now the next thing is for us to see our average. So now we have our quantity to be 5 at equilibrium. Our output level to be 5 in equilibrium. Now we are interested in our price. So what do? We trace our price at equilibrium upward. When we trace it upward, we'll get something like this. And when you trace it, the point where it meets, so this can be the 2 that we refer to. So our price here is the 2. Very easy. Very, very easy. Very, very easy. So you then have the next one, which is your average cost. So with your average cost, this is average cost curve. Where does it cut in equilibrium? So in equilibrium, it meets here. That's the point where it meets. So you trace it to your cost curve or your cost, and you get the value. So let's assume this is the 1. This is just what we've done. So you see that this whole bracket is what we are asking you to find. You see that the price, which is 2, is greater than the average cost, which is 1. So our average cost is 1. So if you want our profit, it is going to be our quantity into bracket, our price minus our average cost into bracket close. So you then have your quantity, which is 5 from your question, then your price, which is 2. So into bracket 2, then your average cost, which is 1, and then you then have 5 into bracket 1, and you get what? So that is what you get. Okay? So these are the things that I need you to take note of. Very, very, very important. So if you multiply it, you get a profit of 5. You get a profit of 5. Okay. So that is what you need to know with the abnormal profit. The price is above the average cost curve. That is why the average cost curve is below it. You see where the price is and where the average cost curve is below. So when we do that, we get our abnormal profit. That means that we can get our normal profit, and our normal profit will occur when our price is equal to our average cost. Our normal profit will occur when our price is equal. So it means that this time around, our average cost is not going to be below our price, but it is going to be exactly sitting on the average revenue, which is our price, in equilibrium. So you are going to get something like this. You see, this time around, it is not going to be below it. It's not going to be here, but it is going to be exactly sitting on it in equilibrium. Sitting on it. So when you trace it up, the point where it meets, you then trace it to your curve. So this is how you are going to get it if you want a normal profit. If you want a normal profit. So if this is 10 and we are calculating for our profit, our price will be 10. Our average cost is also going to be 10 because it's the same thing is sitting on it. So it's the same. Then our quantity is going to be 5. And so you are going to get price, our profit to be equals to our quantity into bracket price minus average cost, which would give you our, so you get 5 into bracket 10 minus 10, which will give you 0 multiplied by 5, which will give you 0, That is the normal profit I was saying. That is the firm neither makes a profit nor a loss. Okay. The abnormal profit, would be that the price is then less than the average cost. What it means is that our average cost is now greater than the price. Our average cost is greater than the price. And so when you do that, you are going to get something like this. That's our average cost. You see that it's now on top, above it. It's not on it. It's not even below it. It's far away from it. So we trace it to our equilibrium point. We trace it up from our equilibrium point. We trace it up. When you trace it to this part, this gives you your average cost. And then you get the price to here in equilibrium. You get the price to here. So you can get 10 here and you can get maybe 20 here. So if you want to get your profit, then you are going to have your quantity all into bracket, your price minus your average cost, which is going to give you 5 into bracket. Your price is 10, your average cost is 20. So you are going to get 5 into bracket minus 10, and that will give you negative 50. Negative 50, and that will be, that's why we say it is a subnormal profit. So this whole bracket is what we call the subnormal profit. So when you see this, do not be afraid of what subnormal profit is all about. The very last thing I want us to do so that we move to our speed test is that we will be looking at what decision the firm should take in the subnormal profit. What decisions should the monopoly take in the subnormal profit? In the perfect competitive market, the decision to take, that is whether to stay into the business or to stay in the market or to leave the market, depends on the relationship between your price and your average variable cost. And I think I explained that yesterday, that the reason why we are interested in your price and your average variable cost is because as for your fixed cost, that one has been paid for already. In fact, your total fixed costs have been paid for. So whether you operate or you don't operate, you have paid for it. So you need to concentrate on your variable cost. Now, if your price is greater than your variable cost, then it's advisable for you to remain in business. It's advisable for you to continue production. That is, you are able to get money that can be able to buy your raw materials, which are your variable cost. And you can even get money to defray part of your fixed cost. Part of your fixed cost. So if your price, so the first thing is that if your price is greater than your average variable cost, then it means that be in business. That's the first thing you need to know. The next thing is that if your price is less than your, is equal to your average variable cost, your average variable cost, be watchful, because danger is coming. Because what it means is that now you are able to get a total revenue that can only be paid for your total variable cost. It means you can't even pay for your total fixed cost. That is very, very dangerous. And that's why I say be mindful of that. You need to watch out for that, because that is a pointer. That's a pointer. Now the third one, which is the worst one, which would say that get out of the market or leave the market, is that when your price is less than your average variable cost. When your price is less than your average variable cost, what it means is that your price is less. So assuming your price is 2 and your average variable cost is 7, it means that you are spending 7 cedis to produce a commodity. Now you go and sell the commodity and you can't even get money that can pay for the 7 cedis. Then you need to get out of the market. You need to get out of the market. That's what we say you shut down. So the shutdown period is where? At this point, shut down, close, and leave the market. And leave the market. So that is what you need to know in terms of the monopoly. In terms of the monopoly. Now, in the long run, what is important is that in the long run, the monopoly will earn an abnormal profit, because he is the only one who is into the business, and he will have his long run average cost to be below his long run average revenue or price. So in the long run, that is what will happen to the monopolies. The very last thing I need to let you know is on price discrimination. When we talk about price discrimination, then it is where buyers would give different prices for a particular commodity or to producers. So they will give different buyers separate market prices for the same commodity. That's what we call the price discrimination. The price discrimination. Sometimes it happens in the provision of medical facilities. Sometimes the prices there are different. Sometimes even the provision of utility. Some people are higher consumers, so they pay more. Those in the cities will pay other additional charges, but those in the village will not pay the same. But they all are in the consuming the same utility. Then those in the hospitality sector, sometimes you get to the entertainment too, you have the same thing. Some people pay VIP, some people pay VVIP, and those things. So you see that they discriminate in terms of the prices. Then the provision of airlines too is the same. So you have these institutions practicing what we call the monopoly discrimination or the price discrimination. Price discrimination. Okay. Okay. So on our speed test, I would go on a break, and when I come back, we would look at our speed test and take some few questions. So get your pens ready and let's go for the break. We'll be back very soon. Welcome back from the break. I hope you've sipped some water and we are delving into the speed test. The first speed test that we have is a multiple choice question. And I will take the question and I would read it about twice for you to know what it entails. Now the question reads, the monopolist will maximize profit by operating at the output level where the monopolist will maximize profit by operating at the output level where A, marginal cost equals marginal revenue. B, marginal cost equals average cost. C, marginal cost equals price. And D, marginal cost equals price. Sorry, average cost equals price. So I'll put the options here. A is marginal cost equals marginal revenue. B is marginal cost equals average cost. C is marginal cost equal price. And D is marginal cost equals average cost equals the price. These are the options that you have. The monopolist will maximize profit by operating at the output where A, marginal cost equals marginal revenue. B, marginal cost equals average revenue. C, marginal cost equals price. And D, average cost is equal to price. So call in and give us your answer. Call in to give us your answer. Okay. Now, whilst we wait for the calls, let's have a look at this diagram. Sarah.
Yes.
Good evening. How are you?
Yes, I'm fine.
Sarah, where are you calling us from?
Cape Coast.
Good. Cape Coast, which school?
Abetifi Presby Senior.
That's nice. Okay. Sarah, are you ready for the answer?
Yes.
Good.
This is A.
A is what?
Marginal cost is cost marginal revenue.
Thank you very much. That is the point where the monopoly maximize profit. That is excellent. Sarah, that is good. It means Sarah has done the first one. So let's take the second question. The second question. Which of these statements is not true of the monopolist? Which of these statements is not true of the monopolist? A, marginal revenue is above average revenue. A, marginal revenue is above average revenue. B, he is a single seller and the product has no substitute. C, at equilibrium, marginal cost is equal to marginal revenue. D, he can enjoy abnormal profit both in the short run and the long run. Which of these statements is not true of the monopolist? A, marginal cost is above marginal revenue. B, he is a single seller and the product has no substitute. C, at equilibrium marginal cost is equal to marginal revenue. And D, he can enjoy abnormal profit both in the short run and the long run. So call in to give us your answer. Sarah has picked the first answer correctly. So get the second one, the next person who will call. Okay. So whilst we wait for the answer to this speed test, let's have a look at this diagram. Let's have a look at this diagram. Now, if you look at this diagram very well, the questions are, what type of market structure is the firm operating? So observing the diagram, what type of market structure is the firm operating? Is the firm operating? So to identify the type of market structure, look out for the slopes. You see how it slopes? Very soon we'll be asking you for A, B, C, D. So let's see. If you look at it very well, it is operating in the monopoly market structure. It's operating in the monopoly market structure because the average revenue is downward sloping, or the price is downward sloping with the marginal revenue. Enoch.
Hello.
Enoch.
Hello.
Yes, good evening. How are you?
I'm fine.
Good. Enoch, are you ready with our answer? For which school are you calling from? Where are you calling from?
I'm going in Sabah.
In Sabah. That's nice. Which school?
I said in Sabah.
Good. In Sabah. Okay. That's good. Okay. So Enoch, yes, let's have a look at this. Which of these statements is not true?
The question again.
Which of these statements is not true of a monopolist? The marginal revenue curve is above the average revenue. He is a single seller and the product has no substitute. At equilibrium, marginal cost is equal to marginal revenue. And D, he can enjoy abnormal profit both in the short run and the long run.
C.
C.
Yes.
At equilibrium, marginal cost is equal to marginal revenue. I'm sorry, Enoch. I'm sorry, Enoch. That is not the answer to the question. It is true. It is true that the monopolist in equilibrium, his marginal cost is equal to his marginal revenue. I am asking you which of the statement is not true. It's not true. Okay. So let's hold on. One C is gone. I hope nobody will call in to choose C. So we now have 3 options left. Now, on this diagram, we have been asked which market structure is the firm operating, and we said is the monopolist. Now, the next question is identify A, B, C, and D. We have to identify these ones. A, B, C, and D. Good. Now, to identify A, B, C, and D, you need to know Samuel.
Sir.
Good evening. Samuel.
Sir.
Yes, how are you?
I'm fine.
Samuel, where are you calling us from?
I'm calling people from Volta region.
Volta region. Wow, specifically where?
Big Ada.
Good, Big Ada. Samuel,
yes.
which school do you attend?
Please, in senior high school.
That's good. So Samuel, do you have the answer to our options? Which of these statements is not true of a monopolist?
Please, I may say the answer is A.
A. Why?
Sir, because the question says which of these is not true.
True.
And then, yes. And then, above all the possible 4 answers, B is correct, C is correct, D is correct.
Exactly. Exactly. In the monopoly, Samuel, that is correct. That is perfect. I'm impressed. I'm impressed. That is okay. Okay. Sarah, the next question. Hello? Okay, so Samuel is correct. We said which of them is not true. And the one that is not true is that the marginal revenue is not above the average revenue. In fact, the marginal revenue is below the average revenue. That one you need to take note of that. Always take note of questions which has these type of options. Now the next question, which of the following is not true of, is true of the monopolist? Which of the following is true of a monopolist? Which of them is true? A, controls both price and quantity supplied. B, restricts entry to competitors. C, produces homogeneous commodities. D, sells to only a few buyers. Which of the following is true of a monopolist? Which of them is true? Okay. A, controls both price and quantity supplied. B, restricts entry to competitors. C, produces homogeneous commodity. And D, sells to only a few buyers. Which of them is true? Which of them is true of the monopolist? Now back to our question. So in our question, we asked to identify A, B, C, and D. Now, to look at A, B, C, and D in our question, you need to see how they slope. That gives us an option to the first one that we did. So A tells you that, James.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Where are you calling us from?
I'm calling from Greater Accra region.
Good. Which school?
Accra Tech.
Accra Tech. Okay. James, so let's take the question. Which of the following is true of a monopolist? Yes. What option do you have?
Please, the question again.
Which of the following is true of a monopolist? A, he controls both price and quantity supplied. B, he restricts entry to competitors. C, he produces homogeneous commodities. And D, he sells to only a few buyers.
It's C.
C, why?
It's C.
Why? What is your reason? James, I'm sorry, it's not C. It's not C. It's not C. Okay. So the option there is a B. Is B. He restricts entry to competitors. He restricts entry to competitors. The last one, demand curve for the monopolies is A, horizontal. B, vertical. C, slopes upward to the right. And D, slopes downward to the right. So the option there is D, which is slopes downward. That's the slope of the demand curve. That's the slope of the demand curve. Okay. So this evening, it's interesting how time flies. We've been able to look at the whole of monopoly just within this period. And I know that you now get to understand what it means. One, we have looked at what the whole monopoly is. We've looked at the characteristics of a monopolist. We have moved on to look at the sources of power for a monopolist. Then we have moved on to look at the equilibrium position of the monopolist. And before we looked at the equilibrium position, we looked at the slope of the demand curve for the monopolist. And we said it slopes downward from left to right. And we said that with the monopolist, unlike the perfect competitor, where the price is equal to the marginal revenue and is equal to the average revenue, with the monopolist, it is not like that. The price is equal to the average revenue alone, but not equal to the marginal revenue. Then we move on to look at the profits that are made. And I said with profit, you compare what? The price and the average cost. Then with the decision making of the monopolist, you need to look at what? The price and the average variable cost. So this is what we have looked at so far. It's been nice being with you. I extend a lot of greetings to the entire Wolo team, the teachers, our CEO, my wife, my family, my kids, everybody, and including everybody who helped in the production of this evening session. Thank you. It's been nice being with you. Join us another time for us to take another interesting topic. Bye for now.